Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 5th Annual Women of Resilience Awards. My name is Kailei Carr, and I will be your host for tonight, and I am so thrilled to be here with all of you. I hope you all are ready for a night of celebration. We have an incredible night ahead of us. We are celebrating women of color who are trailblazers and have exhibited some tremendous resilience throughout the years, and for all of us to be inspired by. Tonight, we are going to laugh. We are going to connect with each other in the chat, so make sure you use that chat and share all of the things that come to mind as you're hearing these inspirational stories, these encouraging words, and tremendous women that we are honoring tonight. So I want to see that chat going. I want to also thank our sponsors for tonight, Banfield Pet Hospital and Roar Organic, for making this event so successful and so wonderful, and also to allow all of you to be here complimentary. So let's give it up for them. Please support these organizations. Give it up to them in the chat. And I hope you're ready for a fantastic night. You know, when I was thinking about the word resilience, I looked up to see, okay, what is the textbook definition of resilience? And two of the definitions that really stuck out to me were the ability to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions, and able to recoil or spring back into shape after bending, stretching, or being compressed. Whew. And I know if you are listening to those definitions and if you are a woman of color, you know what it feels like to have to bend, to have to recoil, to have to recover quickly. And that's what we do. And we have been through so much, and especially over the last year, that I am so thrilled that we are here together tonight at this award ceremony to honor these trailblazing women. So we have some resilient women that we are going to honor, and I can't wait for you to hear their stories, to hear from them, and to be inspired by them. But first, before we honor our honorees, I'm excited to welcome comedian Lisa Beasley, who's going to get this party started with some much needed humor. So welcome, Lisa.
Oh, hello. My name is Lisa Resilience Beasley, actually. My middle name is Resilience, so that's probably why Minda reached out to me. First of all, I want to say Banfield Pet Hospital. Nobody told me to say this, but y'all gave my puppy his first shot, so thank you. Um, I'm gonna start my timer because I don't want to go over because I know once I get to talking about me and Black women at work, women of color at work. I can go on and on and on about the many ways I've been tried. So I was like, what do I want to talk about? I want to talk about the year I made $17,000 for the whole year with a 2-year-old. I thought so here's the thing. So I am an actor, but I didn't make $17,000 a year as an actor. I was like trying to work. And so this was before I knew all the things that I know now. So this was when I thought all women made 70 cents on the dollar. And then I found out Black women make what, 63? Hispanic women make like 54. And it didn't dawn on me until after I had a child how much I had been undervalued, or not even undervalued, but more so like just not considered of any value whatsoever of any kind. So here I am, making seven. Alexa, what's 17,000 divided by 52?
17,000 divided by 52 is approximately 326.9231.
So I made $326.92 a week. I was an adult. I was like 30 years old with a child, single parent, one income household. And now that I think about it, Alexa, what is 326 divided by 7?
326 divided by 7 is approximately 46.5714.
So I was making $46 a day, and I would be so confused. Like my small talk with people probably thought I was a little spaced out because I'm like, oh, hey, what you do this morning? They're like, oh, I went to go get me a couple of coffees. Then I went to breakfast. Then I had to go get gas. Then I had to stop by Walgreens and pick up something. Then I dropped off this at my mom, and I would be so confused. I'm like, how are you doing this with $46 a day? You had me at you had to go get gas. So this year in particular, I realized that my worth wasn't noticed, but the things people would ask me for, this is how I found out. Not because I did research, not because I started a company about inclusion, but because just logically what people would ask me to do for money or no money, they would just ask me to do it, blew my mind. There was this one time, and this was around the time where I grew up in church. So I was praying like, God, what must I do to be paid? I'm not working hard enough. What must I do to be paid? And I started to notice something because my conversations were different. this one person, I'm not going to say any names, but this one person, you know, anytime the trend is anytime a woman of color speaks up about anything, they then go, wow, you're right. You should solve it. So I was mentioning about, like, you know, what I know now to be the talent pipeline. Like, we need more Black people up in here. And I was telling him about my strong ties to HBCU. I was a queen once. And I was like, you know, we could get them involved. He requested to have lunch with me. I made him come to the South Side because by this time, any person, especially if it was white, if they wanted to meet with me, they had to come to the South Side because, once again, I'm making $46 a day and I don't have money to be traveling like that. So he's like, he lays it all out with what he wants. He's like, yeah, so, you know, we want to implement, you know, getting the tour up to the HBCUs and being able to implement a funnel program and how will we do that? My response was, I said, you are asking me for binders of knowledge right now. The fact that you think I can answer this in 2 minutes is wild. Then I was thinking, like, okay, well, what were you thinking in terms of, like, compensation for this? And he looked at me like I asked him, do you eat toenails for breakfast? Not too much later, I had a conversation with another woman. I had produced this, like, fabulous program out of the goodness of my heart for a charitable organization. And it was at a space that never seen events like that. And they had participants that they've been wanting to get at all their Banfield. You hear my dog? I'm taking care of them. So they, you know, I basically innovated in a space that had never seen innovation. And the day after, you know, people are high-fiving me, and she calls me into the office and thinking I'm about to be like, you know, like, wow, that was really great. She was upset that I didn't include the higher ups. And I was like, well, that's because there was nothing for y'all to do. It was a Black Lives Matter event and ain't none of y'all Black. So I said all I needed was the space. It wasn't anything for y'all to do. Then she, you know, like, chewed me out a little bit. Then, I kid you not, I'll never forget it. She opened a notebook, got a pen, leaned forward, and said, now, how did you do that and how can we do it again? I promised this this would be a clean set, and it is, but I have to tell you what I told her verbatim. I said, I think you got me effed up. And then I left because I'm from Gary, Indiana, and at the time, I only know 0 to 100, so it was either like I cuss you out or that's when I know it's time for me to go. But then I thought about it and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt. So I went back and I asked her, like, okay, you know, this could be a position, like what money, give me some money, like give me some money. The thing I noticed about people with money is that they love to say, it's not about the money. And my thing is, well, I can't go to Walgreens and go to the counter and they're like, oh, your total is $26. Yeah, it's not about the money. So that was one of, like, the biggest lessons I learned, where I was like, it wasn't me. Did I smell like weed during all of those meetings? Yes. But in most cases, they had seen what I was able to do, but still there was a connection missing in their mind where they assumed just because the impact would be great that I would just do it out of the goodness of my heart, even though I had a child and was making $46 a day. And that was insane to me. So now I own my own business, sis. I pay other people's, and I go to some of those same, like, execs I used to have conversations with, or places that I would try to work, and they come to me for services. And it's so funny because they wouldn't hire me any other. It's just so funny that how the tables have turned and how I make them give me so much money. So I make way more than $17,000 a year now because I've learned my worth. And I will say, I met Minda that year, and I don't think she knows that. is I met her when I was making $17,000 a year. So she saved a few people from getting choked out, like, because I felt her and I had a space where I was seen and there was somewhere I could go. I was like, this is wild, right? And it really validated my experiences, so much so to where I have reached my authentic self at work, and to the point where I never thought I would reach a place where I was authentically, like, completely myself. So in my closing, I want to show you some of my Zoom faces I make during no nonsense conversations. And I only noticed it because we've been on Zoom this whole time and I've never seen my own face this much. And somebody else was like, do you notice you make a lot of faces on Zoom? And I was like, they be saying a lot of dumb stuff. So when I get the give us binders of knowledge for no money, or when I get the let me take notes and try to duplicate your magic, I want to share some faces that you can begin to make if you have to. Also, turning off your camera and having a funny picture up is always an option. There's this one. There's the, especially if they say a number that's just way too low, there's the pretend like you're going to say something, but you're not. It's just like, most of it involves leaning forward, giving them your full perspective, and knowing that you ain't playing games. I really love putting together the hands, placing them to my chin, because they don't know what I'm doing. But my response will be, so let me break down what you just said. You repeat it back to them. They begin to sound, they hear what they just said and realize that they messed up. And then they go reevaluate their whole life, and you've changed their whole entire life. And it's like that's their awakening. You go about your business, they are effed up for life. So that is my time with you all. I think I have 30 seconds if anybody want to ask me a question. But I stayed pretty true to time, and I appreciate the space. I hope y'all laughed. I see y'all laughing in the comments, which makes me feel really good because I can't hear y'all. Minda, this is the bomb, and she is too funny. Definitely the hands like that, using that one. Lean in, look in, and say, let me reframe what you just said. Let me tell you what I heard. It's a big one. That's it. Bye.
Let's give it up for Lisa. Okay, I'm practicing. How's this? Can you explain that one more time for me? I'm ready, y'all. I'm ready. So thank you so much, Lisa. I see people in the chat just laughing it up. That was hilarious. $46 a day, girl, with a kid? Whoo, I'm impressed. So I'm glad those days are over for you. So thank you for the comic relief. Well, I now have the distinct honor of introducing the founders of the Memo and the Women of Resilience Awards. These women are trailblazers and have created some amazing spaces where women of color don't only grow professionally, but just as Lisa said, they feel seen, they feel heard, and like we're doing tonight, they feel celebrated. 5 years ago, they held the very first Women of Resilience Awards. And here we are today in 2021, still going strong. I know, just like Lisa, both of these women have resilience as their middle names. And it takes resilience to advocate, to show up for women of color, to create spaces, to hear the stories. And because I am in the space of women of color and leadership development as well, I know how tough it is to hear some heart-wrenching stories, but also the triumphs of experiencing all of the testimonies of women who have been so resilient. So I would love for you to welcome me and give them some shout outs in the chat to let them know how much gratitude you have for them. Please welcome me or join me in welcoming both Minda Resilience Hearts and Lauren Resilience Broussard.
Wow, thank you so much, Kailei, and shout out to Lisa. I hadn't really asked Alexa those kinds of questions, and so next time I'm going to make sure that I ask Alexa when someone tries to try me in a Zoom. I'm going to ask her first, Alexa, what should I do? So thank you so much for that. Happy that you're all here. You could be anywhere in the world right now, anywhere on the internet, and you're here with us. So thank you on behalf of the memo. My name is Minda Hartz, and as Kailei said, this is our 5th year celebrating women of resilience, but most importantly, celebrating women that look like us. Oftentimes, the world will celebrate women, but they oftentimes leave Black and brown women out of that conversation. And so I remember 5 years ago coming to Lauren and saying, hey, what do you think about this? And Lauren's such a good partner in crime because she never tells me no, but she says, let's talk about it. What does that look like, Minda? Is that next year? I'm like, no, it's tomorrow. So she helps me. We level set, but it's been such a pleasure to be able to honor so many women that you may have heard of, that you're just finding out about for the first time. But every woman that we chose that you will see tonight, from the MC to our fireside chat moderators, everybody was picked with intention. And so we just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. Make sure you hype each other up in the chat. That's what we're here to do. I got dressed in honor of a resilient woman, Beyonce. I have my formation outfit on today, so you can't see it too much. But I guess we're triplets, right, Lauren? My middle name is Resilience, yours and Lisa. So we're going to have a good party here. And so I'll pass it over to Lauren.
Yeah, thank you so much, Minda Resilience Heart. As Minda mentioned, my name's Lauren. I am joining today on Pacific time in California, and am just so excited to be here. As was mentioned, this is our 5th awards, but our 2nd virtual one. So wherever you are joining us from today in the world, we are just so grateful and so honored that you are spending the time with us. We are absolutely looking forward to having a lot of great conversations and hearing all of the wisdom from each of our honorees tonight. We are here to honor 3 amazing women, and they are all an embodiment of the values that we have at the memo: balance, generosity, integrity, and most of all, resilience. So with that, I would love to start the presentation of our 2021 Women of Resilience Awards with our first honoree, Alicia Menendez.
After all this time, you would think I would know how to unmute myself. Hello, thank you all so much. I was showing you my beautiful award, which I am not delicate enough for because it already has all the fingerprints over, but that's how you know that it has been loved both by me and by my children. So thank you so much. I think about resilience a lot in my own life. I think about it, of course, among the women who I interviewed for my book, The Likeability Trap. When I have talked with them, I have heard so much about the obstacles that they have run into, the ways in which they have needed to be resilient. And so I've often thought of it the way we run into these questions in the world and in the workplace. But it has been top of mind for me in the last few days because I recently interviewed one of the first moms who was separated from her children at the US-Mexico border under the Trump administration's zero tolerance policy. Her name is Keldy Mabel Gonzalez Brebe de Zuniga. She came from Honduras 4 years ago with her two youngest sons. They crossed the border into New Mexico. They turned themselves into border agents, and she was hoping to seek asylum. She was taken with her sons, and then she was separated from them. And no one could really tell her why she was being separated or how long they'd be apart. They took her away in handcuffs. Her youngest son screamed after one of the agents saying, "If I knew that you were going to take away my mom, I would rather risk dying in Honduras than be in the United States without my mother." When she got to the next processing center, they said to her, "It'll likely be about 5 days until you and your children are back together." It would end up being 4 years. From there, she was deported to Honduras. She immediately turned around and came back to Mexico. She and Mexico became a lifeline for a lot of other migrants who were going through the same thing that she was going through. She would help them find a place to sleep, find a place to stay. And then a few weeks ago, she got a text message from her attorney saying that she might finally be able to come to the United States. And then right around Mother's Day, she was able to finally come and reunite with her sons. And when I sat down with her and was having conversation with her about everything that she had been through, the thing that I couldn't get over was her ability to keep her faith, to hold on to her faith. And I said, how did you do this? You're away from your kids for years. And she just said, I would pray. I would pray every day. And I would pray for myself. I would pray for other people. And I needed to maintain the faith that this was possible. And so when I think about resilience, I will, for the rest of my life, think of her. When I am up against a wall, I will think of her and her resilience. And that is a story that will carry me through forever. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for this beautiful award. And I will hand it back over to our MC.
Wow, thank you so much, Alicia, for sharing that story of resilience. I think all of us will take that woman's strength with her or with us into each thing that we do. I also just want to highlight that, Alicia, you're such a resilient woman. You're one, we chose you because you use your voice for other women of color. You use it for Latinas. And we just thank you for how you show up in the world and encourage us to continue using our voice, because we all have a voice. We just have to decide how we want to use it. I get the pleasure of honoring Kandia Johnson. She is a speaker. She is a founder. I remember the first time I heard Kandia speak, she said, "Relationships will take you places money can't." And I said, that's a woman that I want to talk to, because building relationships is so important. And so when I thought when me and Lauren were talking about people to honor, we immediately agreed on Kandia, because she shows up and she is so authentic. I mean, I don't know that I've met too many women that show up with the full pieces of themselves and encourage others to do the same. And so I'm excited to honor Kandia Johnson with one of our Women of Resilience Awards.
Woo, woo. Thank you, everyone. So I have to show my award. And of course, I when I got this award, I said, oh my God, so this is like really fancy. This thing is serious. But, I had this entire speech prepared, a whole story about my journey. But I decided to switch things up a bit because I needed to take a moment to honor and acknowledge my mom, who's watching and listening to me from her hospital room right now. Mommy, I know you're going to kill me for putting your business in these internet streets, but you'll be all right. My mom is a testament to the power that each and every one of us have to not allow your future to be determined by a series of unfortunate moments from your past or present circumstances. For me, this Woman of Resilience Award is a collection of, it demonstrates a collection of some of the most powerful lessons that I have learned from my mom, particularly over the last few years, watching her show up anyway. Despite the messy, complicated twists and turns of your life, show up anyway. Despite people who try to silence your voice, eliminate your presence, show up anyway. Despite the thoughts in your head that often tell you you're not good enough, you're not expert enough, you're too old to start over, you don't look like them, you don't speak like them, show up anyway. Every single day you wake up, you're breathing, you are enough. And you get to decide what enough looks like for you. You get to decide what enough feels like for you. So thank you, Mommy, for showing me what it means to show up and speak up anyway. Thank you, Minda and Lauren and the Memo community for seeing me as I often show up, messy, complicated, fearful, and fearless. Thank you to my incredibly supportive family and friends, my DSU family, my cousins and my nieces and my aunt. It truly takes a village to raise an entrepreneur. It takes a village to help anyone who spends their days pouring and serving a community or a group of people. And for me, I am surrounded by the best people to make success happen for myself and for others. So thank you so very much for this award. I am truly grateful that you would even consider me. In fact, when I opened the email, I had to look twice, like, me? Or do you want me to forward this to somebody? So thank you so much. This has truly made my day. And Mommy, we're going to speak it into existence. I'm going to get that call and I'm going to come scoop you up in a couple of days. Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations again, Kandia, and thank you for reminding us to show up anyway. I have the pleasure of announcing our final award recipient, physician and CEO of Advancing Health Equity, Dr. Uché Blackstock. Dr. Blackstock, we chose to honor you this year because your life's work has been to create equity for Black and Brown communities in our healthcare system. You have never shied away from speaking the truth, and we applaud you because of that advocacy. And we know that your advocacy will benefit generations to come. So everyone, please welcome me in joining and congratulating the Memo's 2021 Women of Resilience Award recipient, Dr. Uché Blackstock.
Hi, everyone. Here's my award. Oh, thank you so much. When I first got the email, I also thought it was a mistake, but then I soon just felt very honored, especially to be honored with the two other honorees, Kandia and Alicia. And I also have to talk about my big influence and the person who taught me resilience, my mother, Dr. Dale Blackstock. She was the original Dr. Blackstock, and that's uncommon for, as a Black woman physician, for me to say that my mother also was a physician. But she grew up about 15 minutes from where I am right now here in Brooklyn, New York, under very different circumstances, born to a single mother, raised on public assistance. She had 5 siblings and had to overcome so many barriers to go on to be the first person in her family to go to college, and then was encouraged by a mentor to apply to medical school, went to medical school, and then came back to her neighborhood in Brooklyn and to care for patients for many, many years, to care for her own neighbors. And she's the person that taught me to give back. Unfortunately, we lost her when she was only 47 years old from leukemia. But I hope that in the work that I do around health equity and health justice, that I make my mother proud and continue to really honor her legacy. And then in this last year, it's, strange that how sometimes very difficult, challenging times are opportunities for us to step up. I have tried to use my voice for good to amplify the issues around racial health equity that people need to know about and need to take action for. And so I learned resilience from my mom, and hopefully I'm modeling that for my own children. And I'm just very, very grateful for this opportunity to be here in community with all of you this evening. And I look forward to engaging and hopefully even collaborating with all of you in the future. Thank you again for this award.
I don't know about you, but I am feeling inspired. It is so amazing to hear the stories from these three women. And what I loved about each of them is that they didn't only say, thank you for this award or this honor. They each mentioned women of resilience who have inspired them. So, congratulations to our honorees, Alicia, Kandia, and Dr. Blackstock. And I'm inspired. Now, we're going to hear some more from each of our honorees in just a moment. But first, I wanted to take a moment to again thank our sponsors, Roar Organic and Banfield Pet Hospital, for their sponsorship. And Banfield Pet Hospital has a video for us to take a look at. So let's watch a video from Banfield Pet Hospital.
We are proud and honored to sponsor this event where we celebrate women of color who embody resilience and are champions for other women in the workplace and communities. For those of you who are not familiar with Banfield, we are the leading provider of preventive care with over 1,000 hospitals in the U.S. I have been a practicing veterinarian with Banfield for over 14 years, and I currently serve as their Vice President of Veterinary Quality. At Banfield, we are committed to creating a culture where equity, inclusion, and diversity flourish. Currently, 90% of veterinarians identify as white, making our industry one of the least diverse healthcare professions in the U.S. And that's not okay with us. We are working hard with organizations across this industry to increase the representation of diverse veterinary professionals. The key to truly creating a diverse industry is to encourage the next generation of veterinarians. I often hear little kids say they want to become a veterinarian when they grow up. And many of you might have little ones at home that can't wait to put on this white coat. But unfortunately, many children of color are dissuaded from becoming veterinarians. We conducted a study where 33% of Black students in college and high school wanted to become veterinarians. But of that 33%, only 3% applied to vet school. And the number one discrepancy that was noted is that somebody they trust, whether it be a family member or a school counselor, told them they should look into other fields. To create a truly diverse veterinary profession, we need to show our children of color what's possible. They belong in this industry. We need to show them role models, encourage their curiosity, and instill an appreciation for STEM education. I felt this firsthand in my own life. When I was 6 years old, there was a video that surfaced where somebody asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I proudly said, I want to be a veterinarian. But the difference is I had role models to help encourage that. First and foremost, I had a mother that invested in my dreams. She made me believe that anything was possible. And then I have to credit my grandfather and my father. They encouraged my love for animals. Not just encouraged, but they taught me how to be a good guardian of our family pets. And so that pushed me to actually start my own business when I was just a little girl, and I would come home from school and I would walk the neighborhood pets, and then I would offer pet sitting services. And that's how I made a little extra money. You know, my second role model that I have to credit that was really influential in my life was a gentleman that came and spoke to my high school group. And this was a group of students who were of color that had aspirations. And so he came and spoke, and lo and behold, he too was a veterinarian. And this was the first time in my life that I've ever seen a veterinarian of color. And this gentleman had a similar background and could talk to me and just be so authentic. And to this day, he's still a mentor. There's not a Friday that goes by that I don't receive an inspirational text from him. Lastly, I recall when I went to my HBCU, North Carolina Central University, I was in a work study program and I got to work in research. And the research facility had a veterinarian, and he would take care of the animals. And this veterinarian was Black. And he took me under his wing and convinced me to follow my dreams to become a veterinarian. So without these mentors in my life, I don't know where I'd be today. I always make a conscious effort to ensure that I support aspiring veterinarians of color, because I remember how impactful my mentors were to my career. Over the past 14 months, that word resiliency has taken on a whole new importance. Veterinary practices had to provide essential services, which means we had to pivot very quickly to offer quality care while protecting the health and safety of not only our associates, but also our clients. And during this time, we saw an increase for the needs in veterinary services. I'm sure you heard about everybody going out and clearing the shelters and getting these pandemic puppies and kittens. Well, we felt that in our practice every day. And in order to respond to those growing needs of pet owners on a daily basis, in the midst of a pandemic, we had to offer and find a level of resiliency that we had never experienced before. Our teams created a strong sense of community and support, which allowed them to thrive despite the many challenges that were thrown our direction in 2020. As we recognize these resilient women being honored today, I hope we can all think about how we can role model leadership and what that could look like. I love Mahatma Gandhi's quote, "Be the change you want to see in this world." In some way, we are all leaders. As we continue along our own leadership journey, how do we role model leadership? How do we uplift others? Thank you for being here to celebrate women of color. And I want to congratulate the winners of the Women of Resilience Award.
Thank you again to Banfield Pet Hospital. Thank you for your support. Oh my goodness. So many beautiful messages in that video. I have a daughter who's 5 years old who is excited to become an astronaut, and I want her to maintain that excitement, that love for STEM, right? And I think the key message of we can be the change we want to see in the world, and the importance of mentorship in our leadership and inspiring our younger generation to do things that maybe they haven't seen others do. So with 90% of veterinarians not being women of color, wow, we have some more impact to make. So thank you again. I know I am inspired, and I hope all of you are as well. So it's one thing to honor some fantastic women of resilience, but it's another thing to hear more from them. So we heard from each of our honorees tonight, and we have the chance to hear more from them. So right now I'm going to introduce, we have 3 moderators who are going to be moderating some discussions with each of our honorees tonight. We have Shontavia Johnson, Keirsten Gregg, and we're bringing back Minda Harts for us to have some more conversations with our wonderful honorees. So I'm going to welcome these ladies back to our virtual stage.
All right, Dr. Blackstock, first of all, congratulations
Thank you.
on your award. In your remarks, you mentioned using your voice to support communities, and I so respect the work you've been doing to raise awareness around COVID, inequity, and vaccinations. And I know resilience has to be the word to describe your work with our current political climate and medical climate. As a doctor and academic who's had a successful medical career, how do you continue to move forward on those days when it is really hard or when you are the only one?
Well, that's definitely not an easy answer. It's, as you mentioned, I was in academic medicine for almost 10 years before I left to start my own company. And when you're in medicine, you're on this path, right? You're on this path. Most people stay on the path for their entire career. I thought I would be in academics forever, but then I encountered environments where, as a Black woman, I felt like I could not express myself. I could not speak truth to power about my experience and the experience of other faculty of color and students of color. And that actually made me realize, Uché, you need to really create environments where you can feel your authentic self and where you can work and in a way that aligns with your own priorities and values. And so I took this leap of faith, and I always say it was a leap of faith in myself to start my own company, because it's something that not a lot of physicians do, because we really don't have any sort of role models who are entrepreneurs. Typically, a physician would start a business to have their own clinical practice, but I actually started my own consulting firm to work with healthcare organizations to dismantle bias and racism in healthcare. And so I kind of reached that point in my academic career where I said, enough is enough. I'm tired of being one of the onlys. I was one of the only faculty of color in my department for about 10 years, and this was in a department of emergency medicine in the middle of New York City. So there was really no excuse for that, right? But I said, I need to create an environment where I'm not going to be the only, and where I'm going to do the work that aligns with what's important to me. And so I think every now and then when you're feeling that frustration, sometimes what that is like a little tap on your shoulder or a nudge that you need to say, then you need to find alternatives. You need to take, that leap of faith in yourself that initially may feel very, very scary. But I think when you think about, I knew that I had the skills, I knew that I had the expertise, I knew who my mother was, I knew who raised me. And that if she were here, she would say, baby girl, of course you can do it. So I took that leap, and what happened with that leap was abundance. An abundance of opportunities. And so sometimes I feel like often we may feel stuck in situations and jobs and careers, but we're really not stuck. It's sort of a mindset, right? And a lot of it is we're stuck because of fear, a fear of failure, a fear of not fulfilling our goals. But the fact is that if we do take that leap, we will meet abundance and opportunities.
Oh, I love that so much. As a person who was in the legal academy for 10 years, completely get that perspective. And I'm wondering, as you talk about like taking that leap of faith, did you struggle with imposter syndrome? If you did, particularly when you made that leap as an entrepreneur, how did you navigate imposter syndrome? What advice would you give to other women who may be dealing with the same thing?
Well, would you believe if I said, I mean, I still struggle with imposter syndrome, but I think what it's a result of, it's a result of the society that we're socialized in, right? We're socialized in a society where we don't see a lot of people like us doing what we want to do in leadership positions, in positions of influence and power. And so I think that, you know, it's natural to sometimes doubt yourselves, especially as, you know, as a Black woman, as a woman of color, that, you know, even though, so for example, even though my mother was a physician and I became a physician, there were times when I was in those spaces where I felt like I didn't belong, even though I did belong, right? But it was this subtle messaging, sometimes not so subtle messaging you get from those around you that sort of make you feel that way. But, you know, I think what's important, one, is to have your village, to have the people around you who know who you are, who keep you grounded, and who could be there for you when you are expressing those self-doubts. I think it's also important, and what I do sometimes is I keep a list of my accomplishments, or sometimes I go to my CV. I know, you know, sometimes I'll look and be like, wow, Uché, you literally did all of that. Yes, you did that. Because sometimes you need that reminder. And then also, I think, you know, self-affirmations are really important, whether it's something that you say to yourself every morning, whether it's something that you write on a Post-it and you keep by the mirror or around the mirror to remind you. But often we're going to need those reminders, and that's okay. I don't think that we should beat ourselves up about that. But, you know, I think having multiple strategies really to boost our confidence and to really remind us that we belong, that our voices are important, and that the work that we're doing is critical, I think can help us with imposter syndrome.
Excellent advice. What's your favorite affirmation?
Oh, my favorite affirmation is it's called like love is letting go of fear. So a lot of times, you know, we fear the unknown, we fear you know, taking chances, right? Or stepping out of our comfort zone, but really, you know, loving ourselves and believing in ourselves will really help empower us to take those leaps, as I say, the leap of faith in myself, and to remind you that when you land, you are going to land on 2 feet, right? You're going to land on 2 feet because you've been prepared all this time. It's just that you haven't had the opportunity to be pushed.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that too. And listening to you talk, it's especially hearing you talk about your mother and her serving as a role model for you as a physician and obviously as a loving parent. I'm wondering where else you found good role models. You mentioned being a physician, becoming an entrepreneur. You don't always see those things and have those mentors or access to those mentors. Where do you find those types of models, or do you figure it out one step at a time for yourself?
Well, yeah, I've had to figure it out on my own, but I would say even Minda has been a huge role model for me. I mean, I knew about Minda before she knew about me because I would get the memo emails, and then I read her book, and then we happened to connect on social media. But I think, you know, seeing other women being entrepreneurs, writing books, doing the work that you think is important was also incredibly inspirational to me. But I've also just had to like step outside of my comfort zone to recognize that, you know, that my old life is my old life, and that there are people that are in different circles, entrepreneur circles, who will be, you know, very helpful to me and beneficial to me and helpful in terms of developing skills that I need. And now I have kind of like an informal advisory board of people who they're not even in healthcare, but they are entrepreneurs, and some have been doing this work for as little as 3 years, some as long as 20 years, but they all sort of have a different perspective. But what I appreciate the most is that they see my potential and that they are willing to invest the time and effort into giving me advice in terms of growing my business, in terms of developing a business plan, in terms of next steps. And they're also part of my village.
That's excellent. So you have an advisory board / village. I presume these are people who are leaders in their respective fields. What are the things that make them great leaders? What are the things that make you say, these are people who should be on my advisory board or in my village?
Right. Yeah, well, so a lot of them, you know, it's interesting because when you think about mentors, sometimes with mentors or advisors, you don't realize it's sort of a two-way street, that, you know, you are learning from them, but then they're offering, but then you also are offering them some perspective, right? A way sort of to challenge themselves to think about new situations or new experiences. And so, one of my mentors actually, and advisors, he had asked me, he said, I want you to build out a 1, 3, and 5 year plan for your business. And I want you to tell me what you think, what are your goals going to be? What are your earnings going to be? And I wrote it up and I gave it to him and he said, no, Uché. I said, what? He said, you have to aim higher. I said, really? He says, yeah, I don't think you're aiming high enough. And it's interesting because sometimes people can see something in you that sometimes you can't see in yourself. And I think what he saw is that, oh, Uché, you will do so much even in this year. And so what's interesting is, I took that advice from him. And what I found was that I looked back at these goals I had a year later, and I had crushed them. And these were 5 and 10 year goals, right? But I think what I realized is if he hadn't told me to aim higher, or he hadn't, encouraged me to aim higher, I probably would not have, right? But he had that experience, being an entrepreneur, knowing me, knowing the services that I was offering, to know that I could do really well in a shorter period of time. And I have to say that I did surprise myself, but now I'm on a roll.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So what was the biggest surprise as you look back at those goals when you said you started out not aiming high enough and you went back and modified your goals a bit? What was the biggest surprise for you?
Yeah. So that sometimes when you make that transition from, I guess, one career to another, or even a transition from, having a job to being an entrepreneur, you kind of you do it in there's a transition. And so I was still practicing clinically. I was still seeing patients while I was running my company. And I did it because, I have bills to pay, I have children, I have a mortgage. And I said, okay, well, I think this is the amount that I need to make to, pay all my bills. But the fact was that, I didn't need to put that ceiling. That ceiling that I had put on was a ceiling that I had created based on my academic career. But what I needed to realize was that when you're an entrepreneur, really the sky's the limit, right? Mm-hmm. You don't need to put a cap on anything. And so it's really sort of breaking out of that that mindset that there are actual limits, or putting these artificial limits in terms of what success looks like. Right. And really, just erasing that. Right. And then thinking, really, it's endless.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. So if it's endless, what does the future look like for your business and for your brand in the next year or two?
Right. So, so that's such a great question. So one thing what I was sharing before is that when you take that leap of faith, abundance comes. And so, and also when you are walking in the path of your passion, your values, and when everything starts to align, then opportunities come. And so what happened with the pandemic is I started writing about what I was seeing in terms of my patients, being predominantly impacted, mostly Black and Brown patients. I started writing for different publications and using my voice. And as a result of that, I've had, I now have, I can do media work. I'm also working on a memoir. So I now have a literary agent. I'm working on a memoir about my life as a Black woman physician, but using these personal life experiences to illuminate larger structural issues. So we know a lot about racial health inequities and racism in medicine, but I'll use this book really to give a platform and a voice to all of that. And then also in terms of my company, I've had the opportunity to partner with over 50 different healthcare organizations to work with them, trainings, organizational assessments, equity audits around creating diverse and inclusive work environments. I want to essentially create the environment that I did not have in my career, because I don't want people who are of quality, people like me, to leave these environments when we need to be there in order to provide the best possible care for a diverse patient population. So that's the goal, that every patient that comes into a clinic, into a hospital, into an ER receives the best quality care. because we should not accept anything less. And so that's what working with these organizations, for me, it's really a matter of life and death, right? We are seeing people's lives end prematurely because of systemic racism in healthcare. So I'm trying to do my part by working and engaging, partnering with these organizations to give them the tools and the skills to provide equitable care to every single patient.
Excellent. And you really took the words out of my mouth when you said saving people's lives, because we can all see that in the work you do every day, both in the medical field, even on social media with a lot of the tools and resources you provide. So final question, we've got, it looks like about 2 or 3 minutes left. What is resilience for you, and how can we model resilience in our own careers and lives?
So I think resilience is not necessarily just going through tough times, but I think it's also extending grace to ourselves. Often, we can be hard on ourselves about something not working out, a project not working out, or losing a client, or even just personal disappointments. But it's using those experiences to learn from them, to gain the perspective or even skills that you didn't have before, so that the next time you can be a little bit more prepared. But I think grace is just so important. I think this last year has really taught us that as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Congratulations again. And with that,
thank you.
I'll turn it over to our next honoree and host.
Thank you.
Hey,
Keirsten.
how are you? It's good to see you in person,
good.
kind of.
I know, after we exchanged a lot of Twitter gifts.
Yes, we are Twitter besties.
You
Oh
see?
my goodness.
Yes, we are Twitter besties.
And as you said, we ready. So let's get into it. All right. So you serve as a mentor to a lot of Black women. Some that I know very well. So how important is the role of a mentor, and what makes a good mentor-mentee relationship?
A mentor is incredibly important, not only to your professional life, but your personal life as well. Okay.
Right.
And I also believe that you need several mentors. I think that it's quite okay to have more than one mentor. So I think often we're looking for this one person, but I believe that you should have several different mentors for different areas of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that when it comes to choosing a mentor, sometimes we choose a mentor by the title or, the number of followers that they have. And you have to really be careful of that. You want to make sure that the mentor, and you could use, especially now, social media to kind of lovingly stalk them, right? To really get a sense of what they stand for, to really get a sense of their thoughts and perspectives about certain things that are happening in the business world or, in our personal lives. And so the importance of a mentor too is for you to understand that sometimes how you perceive yourself is different, or how you see yourself is different than how you are perceived. So a mentor can essentially help you see the blind spots. A mentor can help you see your untapped potential. Even if you are looking at a mentor, in weight loss or in your relationships, a mentor can essentially help you uncover your blind spots and step into the next best version of yourself.
Okay. And how important is that relationship?
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's an echo on my side. It's gone.
Okay, perfect. So what was your question?
How important is that relationship? You talked a little bit about social media and the way that we can sometimes stalk our social media crushes. Can you go into that a little bit more and provide some guidance? Because I think that we're in a day and age where we do look at who's the most popular, who's got the most followers and things like that. Is that necessarily always the best way to pick your mentor? Or one of them?
No, one of my mentors are not even on social media, really, right? So I believe that I chose her. Well, I met her at an event, but once we started to talk and discuss, different life events, and just I started to realize her different way of thinking, which was a little bit uncomfortable for me. But then I realized that sometimes when you are uncomfortable, it is because that's an area that you need to grow into, right? And so if you're having discussions with people online, whether you're commenting on their posts or you're reading their articles, a mentee-mentor relationship is just not something that's built overnight, okay? So it definitely takes time. And I want to encourage everyone on this call. One of the things that Amanda mentioned it, I always say relationships will take you places money can't. And I want to encourage everyone on this participating in the ceremony to adopt a weekly or bi-weekly habit of building and nurturing your relationship. So I call my weekly habit Follow-Up Friday. And I schedule a recurring reminder every 2 weeks or every week for 30 minutes to an hour to, sometimes you have an idea of people, you like what they have to say on social media, you like their articles. So I'm very intentional about commenting on their work. At times I may ask them like, hey, we should take this relationship, we should just hop on a phone call. And I think that's how Minda and I really became connected. We were going back and forth on Twitter, and then one day she slid in my DMs or I slid in her DMs or something like that. And the next thing you know, we were on the phone, just getting a better sense of the projects and things that we were working on and how we could continue to support one another. And it's just really, to me, that simple. After you have these repeated discussions with people, particularly online, there's a moment when you feel almost the connection that you should be intentional about using a time to send them an email, connect them to someone you might know, just to figure out the projects that they're possibly working on. And so for me, scheduling that habit bi-weekly or weekly, when I look at some of the opportunities that's been afforded to me, it's primarily because of the mentor and even mentee relationships that I've established over the years.
I love that. So you took the opportunity to leave corporate America, transition into entrepreneurship. Now, there are a lot of women that are watching today who dream about stepping out, and as you say, showing up anyway, building their own tables. What advice do you have for them?
Well, first off, for many women, and I say this because I work with primarily women, but especially for mid-career women, who we are right now, the work that we do today, who we are is who we've been programmed to be by our parents, by our caretakers, by the communities that we live within. Our jobs, we were given a vision of what success looks like, whether it was teaching or technology or medicine. And we went headstrong into these careers. And then we get to the point and we realize we are unfulfilled and incredibly unhappy. So the first thing I would say is to get clear about the vision that you have for your life. Get clear about your lifestyle, the lifestyle that you want to live, and then decide if the business that you want to start aligns with that lifestyle or vision you have for yourself. The second thing that I would say is, one of my favorite quotes is by John Maxwell. And he said, success can be found in your daily routine. That's where your success lies. Okay. So you have to get clear on your systems that's going to support your success. And you can do that now while you're working for your employer. Okay. Mm-hmm. Elevation costs. And so oftentimes when you are looking at your systems and your processes, you are going to have to spend money on making those systems run in your sleep. Otherwise, the biggest mistake, or one of the biggest setbacks that I've experienced and that many other entrepreneurs experience, is just creating another job for yourself where the business just can't run without you. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if that's what you want, right? Like maybe you want to start a restaurant, or you want to start a hotel or something like that. If that's what you're here for, then fine, right? But we have to make sure that, again, for most of us, we chose the job first, and then we realized we wanted to live a certain way, and the job doesn't match up. So I would say to get clear on that, get clear on your systems, and then definitely you want to surround yourself with a community of people who can help you navigate the entrepreneurial waters, because of course they get shaky at times.
They absolutely do. And I want to go back to this because I had to write it down. You said elevation costs.
Right.
Like elevation costs. And I took from that not just the financial part of it, but just like our 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or 12 to 12, whatever, however long we work for someone else. There is a cost that comes with that, and not just the financial cost. There is the cost that we're away from our family. So, in your experience, what cost has been the biggest return on your investment in yourself as an entrepreneur?
Therapy and coaching, hands down.
I love it.
Therapy and coaching, hands down. The reality is most of us know the systems that we need. We probably have the money that we need to invest in the systems. I can give you what to say and how to say it. I can tell you the process and the tools to do so. But if there's a thought in your head that tells you you're not good enough, if there's a thought in your head that tells you that mistake that you made a gazillion years ago, people are not going to trust you. It doesn't matter if the tools are sitting in your lap and you have the script to land $1 million deal. You're just not going to do it. And so, again, I go back to the coaching and therapy has definitely been two of the best investments that I've made in myself, not only personally, but professionally as well. And it's because of, just getting out of my own way mentally. And then also, again, sometimes how I see myself is different than how I'm showing up in the world. Sometimes you don't realize some of the things that you say every single day. Words have power. They're working against you, right? And so even in therapy, learning how to have better conversations with myself was key. Learning, Dr. Uché said this early on, learning how to show myself grace came from therapy. Learning how to get comfortable asking and talking about money came from coaching. Getting a coach who could help me own my BS. Your BS is your belief system, the lies and excuses you tell yourself why something can happen. Okay. Sometimes you need somebody to help you own it and transform it into positive, doable, small actions. Right. So those are my two best investments, therapy and coaching.
All right. And then lastly, because I think we are running out of time, networking and relationship building, they look strange right now. No matter what anyone says, COVID is not over. We are still in a pandemic. So what advice do you give to those who are trying to figure some things out? Like, how did they build social capital from outside of the workplace, whether it be in their home or in someone else's home or someplace outside of their corporate buildings?
Right. So I think in a virtual world, it's, again, continuing to comment, share information, like send someone an article or something in their DMs or something like that. Invite a person to, do a virtual happy hour or something. And especially if you two are aligned. So right now I'm gardening. So I have a few of my garden mama friends that we are connected. That's on this ceremony right now, simply because I was sharing gardening tips, right? But we also help one another when we see something that's relevant to our area of expertise. So I think just continuing to engage with people. And I know that a lot of people get caught up in, they're not talking to me on Twitter, but just like you and I, right? We just jump into each other's conversation online. And that's really how it happens. So be intentional about starting a conversation and joining a conversation online.
Yes. And I so love that you mentioned your gardening group, because I think in my profession, I can say this, that people think of networking only as what their profession is, as the job that they do. But I love how you just bring your full self to everything. You know, like you bring your whole self. You're talking about garden, you're talking about happy hour, you're talking about the books that you're reading and the places that you're going. I'm loving this lip gloss that you have on right now. I'm about to go get it. It looks like the the purple Riri.
Woman,
yes,
the lip bar.
yes, I love it. So I'm going to go get that. Thank you, Lip Bar. And so I just want to really reiterate that networking is not just what your job is. You don't have to just network with the people that you work with. You should network with the people who are your people.
Right. Absolutely.
Any final thoughts for folks on how they can be as resilient as you?
I think piggybacking off of what was said before, show yourself some grace, right? And you don't have to believe everything that you think. Show up and speak up anyway. And in the meantime, of course, just show yourself grace. I think specifically for women of color, for women also in general, that we are so incredibly hard on myself. And I'm putting myself in a hot seat. I'm calling myself to the front of the congregation. And if there's one thing that I could leave with you today, is to learn how to have better conversations with yourself. I talk to myself all the time. Kandia, we ain't got time for this today, girl. You're going to get your mind right and get out of here and do what you're going to do. So learn how to have better conversations with yourself.
All right. Thank you so much. It is wonderful to speak with you. Congratulations again. And I'll be seeing you on Twitter.
Yes. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Alicia, how are you?
I'm so excited to finally get to have this conversation with you, Minda.
Me too. And I was thinking about it before we got on. I said, wait a second, I did this all wrong. How am I interviewing the anchor, the person that does this all the time?
So meanwhile, I'm nervous because I have to answer questions. So yeah, we should have done this in the reverse.
Yeah. Well, it's such a pleasure to be here with you. What people may not know is that you are one of the last people that I saw in person before COVID-19. We were both promoting our book, The Memo and the Likability Trap, and we were on a virtual stage together, and it was such a pleasure. And I thought we'd be on more stages together, but we're in the virtual environment, and so I'm so glad to expand this conversation because I had so many questions that I had after that panel discussion, and I'm glad we get to jump into it today. So without further ado, Alicia, you wrote The Likability Trap, How to Break Free and Succeed as You Are. At work, you and I know that strong women are criticized for being cold and warm women are seen as pushovers, right? Or you could just run them over. How do we combat these stereotypes?
These stereotypes are so real. And I think a big part of this is just honoring and addressing the fact that they exist, and also addressing the fact that they're just really much more complicated for Black women, for Latino women, for Asian women. So while all women are contending with this idea that you can either be competent and seen as really good at your job, but less likable, or you can be really warm, but then people don't necessarily see you as a leader. For Black women, I mean, this is embedded throughout your book. Black women who are assertive, which is a thing that we supposedly want out of a leader, are seen as aggressive and sometimes angry. There's almost no bigger demerit at work for women than anger. For Latinas like myself, there are two different stereotypes. They go in sort of opposite directions. One is that either we're, so passionate and hot-blooded, and I use those words in big quotation marks, that people love us and think we're really fun, but they don't necessarily see us as a leader. Think like Sofia Vergara in Modern Family. Or that we're humble and meek and like a great team player, but not necessarily the one who's going to lead the team. And then for Asian women, there is this expectation of them both as Asians and then really as Asian women that they will be subservient and that they will do what other people tell them to do. And so when Asian women are in a group environment and they act up, want to assert themselves and lead, they pay a real social penalty for that. So I think, first of all, it's like acknowledging that all exists. A form of bias that I was even less familiar with than I was with some of the racial and ethnic bias was the bias that mothers specifically are up against, not parents, mothers. That there's just, when you become a mother, it is though all of your quote unquote feminine qualities are put on blast, and they become the thing that people understand, see about you, perceive about you the most, such that it's not just these questions that haunt women about like, well, is she really committed to her work? It becomes this question of like, does she have what it takes to lead? And that motherhood can undercut that, which is ridiculous because nothing shows you the depths of your own strength quite like motherhood. I think where a lot of the lady in the workplace literature has gotten it wrong, and I know you agree with me, is that so much of it has focused on how we fix ourselves instead of focusing on how we fix organizations and systems so that all of us can show up as our more full, authentic selves. And so that to me is at the core of the work that I've done and the work that you've done, which is really getting away from this idea of individual survival, because that's all it is. These books will never teach you how to actually thrive in the workplace so long as the workplace is biased against anyone who comes from a marginalized identity.
Yes. I wish I had my tambourine handy. Because
okay.
Yes, tambourine moment. It's so true. I mean, I often talk to women and I'll say, who would you be if you stopped seeing yourself through the eyes of someone else, right? Because as long as we see these stereotypes, we're going to feed into them if we're not careful. And so I love everything you write about in the book. And if you haven't gotten Alicia's book, The Likeability Trap, it's available where all books are sold.
That long tail. Thank you, Ms.
You know how it goes. We know how, but it's such a great book, really, honestly. But one of the things that you talked about motherhood. So I think this is something that, for those, we sit at various intersections as women, and you are a mother, you are a wife, you are an MSNBC anchor. And I'm sure there are times you might feel overwhelmed with dual responsibilities. On those days, what does self-care look like to you?
I love that you're asking me that question as I literally over the computer am seeing a pile of laundry that is piled up. So it is every day that I feel that way. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer, and I work out almost every day. That is more for my mental health than for my physical health. I need to do that in order to feel like I am focused and I have tended to myself such that I can begin to tend to others. And I put that at the beginning of the day because I know that if I don't, then the day will get away from me and there will always be something else. But I go back to something Dr. Blackstock said, and I don't think it's a coincidence that she too is a mom, which is this idea of extending ourselves grace. Just that it's so funny, of all the things that Instagram makes me feel bad about, right? It's not even just the professional comparison or the comparing myself to other people. It's and now I feel bad that I don't have enough time for self-care. Now I feel like I've let myself down because I've not done all of those things. And I think just to me, it is more about having the perspective, I have chosen all these things and I love all these things. I love my husband. I love my kids. I love my work. I'm not a person who has hobbies. My work and my hobbies are one and the same. I love the things that I do. I love the book that I wrote. I love being on MSNBC. I have a podcast called Latina to Latina. I love producing that podcast. And so I remind myself that these are choices and these are the things that I've decided are important, bring value to the world, bring joy to me. And the fact that it's big and it's messy is okay with me, right? There are days where the kids eat pretzels for breakfast and the house is a disaster and corners are cut. But that's for me, that's what I signed up for. And so I'm okay with that.
Thank you for your transparency and honesty.
No, true transparency would be me turning around the camera so you could see the laundry, but I'll save you that.
Yeah, if you feel moved by the spirit, you can always screenshot it and share it, on social media. But we'll take your word for it. And you said extending grace, and I'm trying to extend grace to myself right now because I'm in this hotel room and the lighting is so poor. So hopefully you can still see me with all this black on. But I love that you also said your hobbies are your work, your family. Those are your things. I often sometimes beat myself up because I, hear other women like Kandia say, oh, I'm gardening and all these different things. And I don't have those like traditional type of hobbies, but I feel like my work is like a hobby to me. I enjoy
every time I turn around, you're like low key working on another project. We're like, I don't know, maybe I just sold a sitcom, and I'm like, oh my goodness, Minda, you're just manifesting all the things you actually wanted to do.
Yeah, those are my hobbies. So thank you for speaking into me, because I get like sad sometimes when I think about, I'm not doing these other things, but I'm doing the things I love. So thank you for sharing your truth, because I think there were other women who needed to hear that as well, because one size doesn't fit all, right? Yes.
And by the way, you look really good. Like not a lot of people can wear that hat. I don't think, like if that's you in bad lighting, you're doing okay.
Thank you very much. I'm a cross between Beyonce and like a country singer headed to the line dance. So I'm not sure which, but I'm loving it. So the other question that I wanted to ask you though, Alicia, is, everybody's busy, right? I don't know anybody on the planet right now that's not busy and has 100 things going on, but saying no tends to be hard for many of us. How do you decide what to say no to so you can make room for the yeses that await you?
I'm literally the worst at this, Minda. And if you have a mechanism or a matrix or system, I'm going back to something Kandia said about how like really the only way to do it is therapy and coaching, that like strikes so true to me. I will say, in addition to therapy and coaching, the other thing that has been very helpful for me is having a universe of women around me who people use different words, like some people call it their crew, some people call it their squad. I'm like not good on like the putting words on things. It's my WhatsApp chat, right? It's the people who I can go to and I can be like, okay, I just got asked if I should do this and here are the circumstances around it. So one example comes to mind. Juleka Lantigua-Williams, who's the executive producer of Latina to Latina. She also runs this mega business you should all check out called Lantigua-Williams & Co. She produces 1 million podcasts and films and things. We were once together because we were producing the podcast, and I got this speaking request. And Minda, when these speaking requests come through that like are slightly shady, where it's like, you desperately want me, but you need me there next week. And right, so that means like your plans A and B fell through and I am now plan C. You don't have a budget, but like you're trying to convince me the fact that you can fly me there is somehow an homage to my talents. But when, this was back in the days when this was how I was making my income, you're always so nervous that if you turn anything down, that opportunity will never come back to you and that you will burn that. I mean, at least I do, right? Like I can really easily spiral off into worst case scenario. And what was so great was I brought it to Juleka and I was like, this is the set of circumstances, yay or nay. And she was like, that's a hard no. And having someone else to bounce it off of meant I got to know faster. And then for me, the way that I am, I didn't then spend 24 hours wondering if I'd made the right decision. Like the fact that it had someone from my trusted universe's seal of approval to say no to made all the difference in the world. And I think that universe operates for all of us in a lot of ways. Like I think one of the other ways where I leverage and utilize that universe is we get so much critical subjective feedback. It's the vast majority of feedback that women get. It's really helpful to have a group of people you can bring that to and be like, my manager just told me this about the way that I showed up in a meeting or the way that I interfaced with another employee. And it's helpful to have people who can either be like, yeah, that sounds like you. That might be something worth checking in on. And you can also say like, that is completely biased nonsense, like just ignore it. Because, we get so much feedback that sifting through all of it by ourselves is a really lonely endeavor. So that is like the best thing I've got is have a universe of people around you. And I think always the trick with that is people who really see you, people who get you, and also people who can be honest with you, because it's not just like you look great in every outfit you put on. It's the girlfriend who's like, we can do better than that.
Yes. I need all of those people. And I appreciate all the people who are honest with me, right? When the hats don't work, they tell me. So thank you for that, Alicia. You know, I wish we could talk all day, but the final question that I have for you is, I think as women, there's been this scarcity kind of mentality at times because we only see a couple seats at the table. So we think once I get it, I can't help somebody else. And we all have the capacity to speak another woman's name in the room. I love how you do that, because there's been times where you've said, hey, Minda, I can't do something, but I think you'd be great for this. Can I make a connection? And I thank you for that, because a lot of women would say, oh, I don't want that person going, right? You know, I'll just say I can't do it. Talk to us about how we can leverage each other and see each other as more of collaborators versus that competition.
I'm always happy to speak your name in a room. But I think that's exactly it. I think it's more about seeing ourselves as being in an ecosystem where what you're really looking for is like the right chair at the right time, right? So it's not this game of what is the name of it? What is the name of the game with the chairs?
Oh,
musical chairs. Okay. It's not a game of musical chairs where one chair is always being removed, right? It's like there are plenty of chairs for everyone. It's just about getting your butt into the right chair at the right moment. And that's where you and I have had so many of these sliding door situations where someone will say, do you want to come do this on April 6th? And sometimes it's not even that I'm not free. It's just I know it's not a fit. What they're looking for someone to speak about is not what I speak about. And so I'm like, I know the right person, or I know several right people. Here's a list, because I would rather those opportunities be connected with someone who I can vouch for, someone who I'd love to see get the opportunity. And I think there are a few things. I think one of the things we all know about is like, we all felt like mentorship was going to be this big like wizard behind the curtain who would pull the curtain back and there a career would be. Mentorship is incredibly important. I think sponsorship is what even more women, and especially women of color, are missing, which is someone who will truly go to the mat for them, open their Rolodex for them, make the types of connections, put them on the types of assignments that propel a woman's career. I understand that for a lot of people, sponsorship feels really transactional. And that is also where I think just like saying women's names in rooms as often as you can, right? That like when someone says we have this opportunity, you're like, great, here are 7 women who would be perfect for it. And that I think it is hard to underestimate the way that people get buzz, right? That it's like you really need a networked universe of other people who are constantly saying your name, such that everyone gets to that point where they're like, who is Minda Hart? Everyone keeps talking about Minda Hart. Like it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Well, thank you how you do that for a lot of women out there. And I just so honored that we could honor you as one of our Women of Resilience award winners. And thank you, Alicia. And we can't wait for potentially book 2. But in the meantime, make sure you get the likability track. Kailei, we'll send it back to you.
Oh, so sorry, everybody. I was on mute. See, I do this all day, every day, and did not even realize it. So let me I was dropping mics, y'all. I'm going to rewind. And tell you some of these great nuggets. So I was dropping mics because our honorees were dropping mics. We had some amazing takeaways. So I'm going to go back through some of the highlights of the takeaways that I took away tonight with all the wisdom we heard from our honorees. Love is letting go of fear. Sometimes other people can see in you what you can't see in yourself. Relationships can take you places money can't. Elevation costs. Your BS is your belief system. Sometimes our work is our hobbies, and we need to have our village around us to support us during the times when we need them the most. And then we all have the capacity of speaking another woman's name in the room. So we need to do more of that. So thank you again to Dr. Uché Blackstock, Kandia Johnson, and Alicia Menendez for your words of wisdom, and congratulations again. And thank you also to our moderators, Shontavia Johnson, Keirsten Gregg, and Minda Hartz for guiding such powerful discussions. So I'd like to now invite all of our honorees to the stage. And while we do that, I would like for you all who are watching us to drop some of your favorite emojis in the chat to show your love for our honorees and everything you've heard tonight.
Dr. Blackstock, I don't know how yours ended up without the fingerprints on it.
You know, 6 feet my kids couldn't.
Well, I am seeing so many great emojis in the chat. Folks are giving out their flowers and showing their love. I know I am feeling full. I am feeling full. I mean, so much brilliance, so much wisdom, so much inspiration. And what I hope that all of us can take from these women are that we all use some of their resilience to pour into others, and that we use what we heard tonight to inspire us and to pour into others, to open up doors for others who need it the most. So Minda, Lauren, how are you both feeling? I'm going to let you both have the final words as I bask in all the brilliance from tonight.
Well, Kailei, before you leave, I just want everybody to give a round of applause to you for just killing it tonight. So thank you so much for making it just seamless for us. And it was just beautiful to see you operate in this way. I mean, you do it all the time, like you said, through your coaching and business development of other women of color. But just thank you for serving with us here tonight. So round of applause to you, because we couldn't have done this without you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Well, I can't believe we are at the end of the Women of Resilience Awards, Lauren. I may not even have dinner tonight. I'm so full. How are you feeling?
Yes, I am feeling so uplifted. I am just so thankful for everyone who joined, everyone who was a part of today. And I feel like I got so many gems and tips. I heard about grace, transparency, mentorship, and Kandia, I have written Follow-Up Friday on my calendar as well. So
yes, there were just so many gems dropped. And, again, thank you to our sponsors, Banfield Pet Hospital. We couldn't have done it without your generosity, so that everyone watching, we had over 200 people joining us tonight, watching across platforms. And that was all complimentary because of the president, Brian Garish, and his wonderful team at Banfield. So thank you so much. Roar Organic, we thank you for your support because you also sent some lovely baskets out to everyone. And I also just want to shout all the women in our allies that came out tonight. You are resilient as well. We know that sometimes everybody doesn't make the list or get an award, but like Drake said, we don't always do it for a trophy, right? We do it because we have to. And so I just want to salute you in the chat for all that you do. You are resilient, and we appreciate how you show up. Lastly, I just want to say thank you to Jasmine Smith. She is our event coordinator, the behind the scenes, her and her team. We couldn't have done tonight. Success is definitely not a solo sport because me and Lauren probably would have had a nervous breakdown.
We sure would. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Smith Co. is her company name. Book them, find them. We are so thankful.
Yes, and the team at the Memo for our wonderful panels and just working really hard. We just appreciate all of you. It's been 5 years we've been celebrating and honoring women of color. We hope that there'll be many more because there's so many more women that look like us that are doing phenomenal things. So we want to keep hyping each other up, not just in the chat, but in real life. And so again, thank you for everything that you do. We will follow up with an email and we'll include everybody's bios and websites so that you can connect with them, because the way we keep securing our seat at the table is making sure that each of us says each other's names in the rooms we're not in. And I'll let Lauren close us out.
Yes, thank you again to everyone. This was a just fantastic evening. Every year it is better than the last, and I just leave so full, as Minda said. I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are joining us from today. And yes, we will wrap it up from there. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, me and my hat are going to go off into the sunset. Okay, have a good night.